Hello everybody, welcome back to another video. Today we got another video of reviewing NHL teams so far, as today we're going to be doing the Carolina Hurricanes, and today is another special episode. So if you are new to the channel, make sure to hit that subscribe button, and if you're already subscribed, make sure to slap that like button as well. It is very much appreciated, as I just been getting so much support on this series. It's been absolutely nuts, as today we're going to be having a special guest joining the show later on today, Pearlo Wisdom. His link will be down in the description below. You guys should go check him out. He's an awesome YouTuber. I keep forgetting to link him down in the description below. I always forget to. This time I will not. His link will be down in the description below. Make sure to check his channel out. He does tons of hockey description videos. He's been talking a lot about Patrick Kane, and he's been looking at practically doing the exact same videos I've been doing. But today we're going to be taking a look at the Carolina Hurricanes, which, to be honest with you, went through a very quiet offseason, but I'm going to let you guys know why. And I'm going to give it kind of a talk about why I think this team actually did pretty well during this offseason. They didn't sign too much, as you guys are. They departed from very few players. Trevor Van Riemsdyk, which, I mean, they weren't missing out on too much there. Joel Edmondson, Gibbons, Forsberg, Williams retired. They didn't miss too many people. They got some decent people back. And Ryan, I love the Jesper Fast move. And then just a couple of depth players going throughout the roster, getting Fleury and Fogle back into the Carolina Hurricanes roster. But the first guy that we're definitely going to be talking about is Jesper Fast. Jesper Fast has been a very, I guess, underrated player in the NHL. Hasn't really been talked about very much, and was a very good player in New York. And especially in the playoffs. And I know it's a very small sample size, and I mean 40 games and only 14 points. Still, I think it's very impressive that he's been able to put up a pretty decent amount of points in every playoffs he's been in. And especially in the regular season, he is not a point per game producer, but he's a guy that could go anywhere up your lineup. He was exactly that in New York, and I could possibly see this guy exploding and maybe, just maybe, having a 20-point goal or a 20-goal season, which you never know. He's been close to it, and I think he could get to it sooner or later, given that right line. And I think the Carolina Hurricanes have that. Jesper Fast is going on a very young, speedy team, and especially in Carolina, where they really can't bring in the big market players, right? They're going to have problems doing that, bringing in small, little, underrated players like Jesper Fast, and especially his advanced analytics. Jesper Fast is not that bad. And especially with how bad of a year Neo Niederreiter had last year, they really need another secondary guy that can maybe produce more than Neo Niederreiter, or about the same as Niederreiter. So I think it's a very smart move by the Carolina Hurricanes, picking up Jesper Fast, and especially looking at their offense last season, right? Their first line was all-stars, right? Of course, you have Sebastian Aho, Teravainen, Chevy, the great offensive core. Just to let you guys know, I just don't know how to say his name. I always mess it up, so I just say Chevy. But that top six is absolutely lethal. You have Martin Necas, who me and Purlo were talking about. They have very high hopes on him. Necas looks like a stud, and I'm very excited to see how well he will play for the Carolina Hurricanes this upcoming season. But a big guy that they really need to have producing is Neo Niederreiter. Only 29 points this past season. You're going to be looking at this guy to have a 25 point goal season, or 20 goal season. You're going to be looking to get that out of this guy, but he hasn't been doing that over the past couple of years. And last year he did pretty good for the Carolina Hurricanes, playing in 36 games. Right, he had a really good season, and I mean, he had a meh playoffs. I think, right, where does playoff stats at? Yeah, he had a meh playoffs. He didn't do too well, and nor is he a big playoff performer either, and probably a guy that they're waiting to get rid of on the team. But this team, to me, is just such a mystery, because they still got a lot of holes. They still got a lot of big questions, like Brady Shea, like Vincent Trocheck. How well will Ryan Dzingel have this year? Will he have the same type of season? Will he do a bit better? He only had 29 points. And I mean, that's not as near what he had when he was playing in Ottawa and Columbus, right? He had 56 points that year before he came to Carolina. Was there some missing issues that teams seen that maybe Carolina didn't see? I think Carolina had an offseason last year, and they brought in a lot of new players. Dzingel, Trocheck, Niederreiter was new from last year. Jesper Fast, of course, he's joined the team new. And Brady Shea as well, Jake Gardner. I think it's taken a lot of time to kind of adjust to the way that this team is. I think Brady Shea might have a bounce back year. I think Vincent Trocheck as well. Vincent Trocheck had a down year last year. He's been having some down years. A very underrated player, especially when he was playing in Florida. He had that big 75-point season. He's a great two-way guy. I think Vincent Trocheck will be that elite second-line guy. And if he's not, well, then you can maybe rely on more of a Martin Necas, right? This team is taking the slow approach to it, which I like. I like how the Carolina Hurricanes are slowly taking a look at this team and saying, hey, we don't need to rush and do stupid moves, right? And I mean, you really can't right now, right? You have Dougie Hamilton and Chevy, who are big-time free agents coming up towards next year. And you're going to need to let go of some cap. You only have $932,000 next year, and you only got a couple guys coming off the books, right? You're going to have to really clear some cap space next year and make sure you can get this guy and this guy back on your team. Dougie Hamilton is a huge top 2 defenseman for them last year as his injuries really hit him. He was talked about to be the big Norris guy until he got, of course, injured and ended his season practically, right? Like, take a look at how good of a season he had. He was having a point-per-game season with the Carolina Hurricanes. And I remember when Dougie Hamilton was doing that, the Carolina Hurricanes were playing fantastic as well. So I really do have high hopes for the Carolina Hurricanes, and especially after the draft they just had. And me and Purlo will talk about this a lot. These 3 guys, and even more down, they got some really good high picks at Jarvis. I was really hoping he would go to the Edmonton Oilers, but he got picked up by a great team in the Carolina Hurricanes. Noah Gunler, another guy that was supposed to go in the first round but dropped all the way to the 41st. And Paul Moranov, I'm pretty sure he was another guy that was supposed to go in the first round later on in the year, but then kind of fell behind. These are 3 guys that could potentially be main roster guys on your team and potentially make a dent in your roster. And that is great because Carolina is not a big market hockey, right? They even tried to not sign Sebastian Aho to that really expensive deal. They were worried about signing him to that really expensive deal. So I don't know if they're going to really even be able to keep Dougie Hamilton or Chevy. They're probably going to have to choose one of them. I'm not too sure what they're going to have to do, but there's a lot of big questions going into next year, especially the goaltending. But with Mrazek and Reimer, I don't know if you're really going to be able to rely on that goaltending core, especially the way that they had it last season with a 905 by Peter Mrazek, and especially going into the playoffs where, I mean, both of them struggled. I mean, not too bad, but I mean, those are records that were great against the Rangers until they stepped up against the Boston Bruins, and they struggled. And they struggled hard against the Boston Bruins, and especially physically. They got dominated, and they're still going to get dominated in that physical department. They really didn't pick up too many people to help out. They picked up Jesper Fast, and that was really it. Now, you really got to hope that Trocheck bounces back in Shea, but to be honest with you, I'm going to give this team a B because of the fact that I like the plan that they have. And with picking up Jesper Fast, I think it's a smart deal picking up Jesper Fast. I think there's still more deals to come with the Carolina Hurricanes. I think there's still moves for this team. I think they still got to take a bit more time. But I do like the way that they drafted. I think they drafted very smart. They got a lot of good players. I'm really excited to see what Carolina will do for their future. Especially take a look at their draft picks for next year, right? They're fully loaded. They got all their draft picks but for a 5th, and they got a bunch of 7s. So the Carolina Hurricanes, I really like how they're building this team for the future. I mean, look at how many prospects they have. They even signed Jeremy Bracco, who, I mean, is having some issues. But this team is loaded prospect-wise. They just need to get that goalie. They were probably hoping for Askarov, which sadly they did not get. But I'm really excited for this Carolina Hurricanes. The storm surge is definitely still in place for the Carolina Hurricanes. Do I see this team moving past the first round? No, probably not. They're probably waiting for the Seattle expansion and then probably another drive, let their prospects develop. But I'm really excited to see this team is definitely a future powerhouse, especially with Sebastian Aho and Toivo Teravainen. They got a lot of good players. I'm really excited for the future, but there's going to be a lot of luck that needs to be included into this team to make this team a bit better. But I'm giving it a B. Tell me, guys, what you guys think in the comment section below, and let's head off to the interview with Purlo Wisdom, talking more about the Carolina Hurricanes, so stay tuned for that. All right, welcome everyone back as we're here with my main man, Pearlo Wisdom, as his links are all down in the description below. We made a YouTube video not that long ago talking about the Edmonton Oilers, but today we're going to be talking about the Carolina Hurricanes, of course, as they had a very weird offseason, to say the least. When I was looking at this team, I actually had no direction of where I was going to take this video. And give me your initial thoughts of what you thought about the Carolina Hurricanes, because they were one of the most talked about teams coming into this offseason, and then they didn't really do anything.
Yeah, it seems like the Carolina Hurricanes do always end up surprising one way or another. Either they do things where you go, really? Like that's surprising, good but surprising, or in this case, everybody thought they were going to be doing something and they didn't do anything at all. It seems like they quite often do the exact opposite of what we expect from them to do. And this year, yeah, I thought they would maybe do a little bit more. There was talk about Dzingel being moved out. Niederreiter's been kind of out there a little bit. And then, of course, their goaltending situation and all of that sort of stuff. But very little done, although I did like the Jesper Fast move.
Yeah, I do like that as well. And that's a perfect segue into talking about it. Jesper Fast signed a $2 million deal for the next 3 years. I think it's a really smart deal by Don Waddell signing Jesper Fast. And I mean, they got to see him first up when they were facing the New York Rangers. How do you think about the Jesper Fast move?
I think it's a fantastic deal. I think there's offensive upside with Jesper Fast that we haven't seen yet. He did play up and down the Rangers line or New York Rangers lineup, but I wonder what would happen if he really was able to get on a line with some offense and let him play and stay on that line. I have a feeling that he'd be able to find his niche and put up some career offensive numbers here in Carolina. It was a nice under the cuff move, didn't cost them much. Brought in some veteran leadership for this lineup that has Svechnikov, Aho, Teravainen, a lot of young guys. So yeah, it was a really sneaky good move, I think.
Now, of course, the biggest question is their top six. They struggled this year with a lot of their top six. Of course, you had Neo Niederreiter not really performing, and especially in the playoffs. They picked up Trocheck and Brady Shea at trade deadline last year. Trocheck didn't do too much during the regular season and in the playoffs. Do you think Vincent Trocheck will bounce back and maybe get to that 70-point form that he used to be at, and maybe transform that second line that they have with Dzingel, Niederreiter, Natchez, or whoever will be in that top six? Do you think Trocheck will be able to bounce back next year?
Well, I certainly mentioned Martin Necas, and we've talked about it. I just love that guy. If Vincent Trocheck can't come back with a guy like Necas on his wing, if that's in fact who they play, and I think he will work his way up there this year, then you really got to have some question marks here. Florida surprisingly trade Trocheck in a lot of ways, but up until when Trocheck was traded, there was a lot of rumblings about something there, and I don't know what it was. Wasn't getting along with Joel Quenneville or whatever the case may be. Again, these are rumors, but we're taking these rumors and we're applying it to a situation. This is a big year for Vincent Trocheck to show what he really is right now, because with the rumors was a dip and Trocheck wasn't playing up to his standards. Now he goes to Carolina. I don't blame Carolina for giving him a go, especially for what they traded for him. I mean, it was basically fillers for a guy who has shown to be a second line center. Do I think so? There's a question mark there of what it is with Trocheck that needs to be overcome to become that. I hope for his sake he can become that, because he has shown that he can be that. So I'm not sure. I'm really not sure.
Now, one of the best things of Carolina, I think, in my mind, is their defense. Now, they didn't really add too much. They got rid of Joel Edmondson, of course, to the Montreal Canadiens, which was a good move by them. They got rid of a guy that was going to ask for a lot of money. Slavin and Hamilton were two of the best defensemen. Hamilton was in talks about the Norris Trophy up until he got injured, which was the biggest problem going into the playoffs for the Carolina Hurricanes was their injuries. Of course, they also picked up Brady Shea, but do you think Brady Shea is just going to continue this downward trend that he's in, or do you think he's going to have a bounce back, maybe like a Trocheck? Because Brady Shea did struggle when he got on the Carolina Hurricanes. It is a very small sample size, of course, but do you think Brady Shea is going to bounce back from the year that he had?
Well, you're asking great questions here. You're taking the tough ones right head on. Brady Shea was struggling in New York before he got there as well. This is again a team. The Carolina has identified a player that maybe wasn't having his best game, and bringing him in to try to form him back to where he was before or better as Trocheck. Now, one thing I should give an answer. I don't know. I don't like giving the answer of I don't know. I'll say this. I have a lot of faith in Rod Brindamore. If anybody is going to get whatever needs to be get out of the Trochecks and the Shays in this on this team, that whatever was happening before this organization, but whatever they were doing before they got into this organization, Rod Brindamore is that guy. And if he can't do it, then I guess these guys just don't have it. I think Roddy Brindamore will find a way to get. I'm going to give it a yes. I'm going to give it a yes that Roddy Brindamore will get what he needs out of these guys for sure. Well, my hesitation is Joel Quenneville's one heck of a coach too, there in Florida, and Quinn is a young, good, solid coach for the Rangers. But I think you and I agree on this. Roddy Brindy has just something even that puts him above maybe the rest, sort of thing, right?
And that's for sure. I think he definitely is above the rest. He had a very rough playoffs, of course, getting eliminated in the first round. I think it was mostly due to the injuries. I mean, they had a lot of injuries going up against Boston. But I think the biggest question with this team is their goaltending. Coming into this offseason, they were talked about going after a goalie, maybe trading away Reimer, Mrazek, going after one of the big name goalies that were there, but they were quiet. They didn't do anything. They picked up Jesper Fast. What do you think is next for that goaltending duo? Are they going to keep it the same, or do you think they're going to go after somebody new?
I think they're going to have to go for someone new. I think Peter Mrazek and James Reimer have shown all that they are going to show and what they can be. I mean, unless some miraculous thing happens and Peter Mrazek stops overplaying the puck and James Reimer stops playing too far into the net, that has been plaguing, I guess, plaguing. I mean, they're good backup, two good backup goaltenders, but they have their deficiencies, and they haven't been able to overcome their deficiencies now. When Mrazek's 28 and Reimer's 32, that doesn't bode well for the likelihood of that all coming together there. Obviously, I think they were in on trying to find a goaltender out there, but either they didn't want to go to Carolina or something was amiss, or the other difficult thing is both Mrazek and Reimer make around 3 to 3.5 million. Very difficult to send that back in a cap in the flat cap world that we're in right now.
Yeah.
So I think they're just going to roll with them because they already, shown that they can make the playoffs with this goaltending tandem at least. And at the trade deadline, they'll revisit what's out there. And I think quite likely you'll see an upgrade here. And sure, Carolina has the depth all through their lineup. They've done a very good job of building a lot of depth here for assets to be able to pick up another goaltender at the deadline where they should be some more available.
Know what I think they should do? I think they should sign the 42-year-old Zamboni driver goalie to a league minimum deal and have him as their starting goalie. I think that would work out tremendously, especially against the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Yes. Yes.
But What do you think is the biggest miss out of this offseason for the Carolina Hurricanes? What's their biggest question going into the next year?
I think we just brought it up. I think the goaltending for sure has got to be the
Yeah,
biggest question.
that's for sure. Now the next question: what do you think of their drafting? Don Wendell really went out this year and really did a lot of moves, picking up Seth Jarvis, Gunler, and Ponomarev. Can't really say his name. Russian
Yeah.
side difficult time. But how do you think of those moves?
Well, let's just say that when I did my pre-draft video, I had Gunler way higher, and I know and Jarvis. Kind of surprised that they got Jarvis at that time. I was hoping for their sake Skarov would be there for them, but I think they were hoping that as well. But Jarvis is not a bad prize either. That guy looks like he could be something very, very special. It's hard for me to put uh, a player that he looks like he's smaller, but I mean the size isn't really going to affect him. He looks like a point of game player to a team that already has Svechnikov, Teravainen, Aho. The list goes on here. Nietzsche, we just talked about. My gosh, this could be a powerhouse pretty quick with a guy like Jarvis and Noel Gunler. The problem with Noel Gunler apparently was he never got selected for the international teams, and it's up in the air about his maturity and things that are going on there with him and that. And I don't know what the answers to those questions are. I do know that this guy's got one of the sickest shots. Like his shot is absolutely incredible. He's one of the best shots in the draft for sure. Maybe Quinn, there's a couple guys up there, but he's got a definitely high first round shot and hockey sense as well. So I don't know what it is with maturity, but what a great pickup in the second there. And what was the other one as well?
Vitaly Pomeranian.
The
He's
Russian, that's right.
yeah.
The Russian. Excellent pickup as well. I had him high as well. I don't. I like that pick. I like picking those Russians in the second because quite often they've dropped because of the whole Russian factor. So being, the Russian factor being that they can go to the KHL, it's harder to get a contract with them. All of those sort of things like that. So yeah, I really liked. I thought they had one of the best drafts out there, up there with Minnesota and a few other.
Awesome. Well, thank you for being on. And I'd like to just ask you one more quick question. What's your final thoughts and the grade for the Carolina Hurricanes for their offseason this year?
Ooh, again, my final thoughts are, in some ways, I'm kind of glad they didn't go off the top. Like they could have went if they. I don't know how much they could have offered to get Markstrom from Calgary, or if maybe they were in there, or whatever the case may be. I'm kind of glad they didn't. There is a expansion draft coming up. Everybody's going to only be able to protect one goaltender. I like the patience of Waddell to maybe just wait because they'd already made the playoffs, see what falls off the vine, and if they can pick up someone later. Bringing up Fast, I really like that move. A couple of the guys we didn't talk about with Shore, and there was a defenseman as well that I have completely forgot here, but some depth moves. I would say the fact that they didn't get the goaltender, I'm going to give them some minus for that because it's always nice to be able to go in with with your biggest weakness taken care of going into a season. Especially if you do get another goaltender, now that you have to work around that goaltender to work into your system, and that can take some time. And in a shortened, condensed season, that might be difficult. So I'm going to give them a B. B. I'm going to give them a B for that. For those.
Awesome. Awesome. And I'd probably rate them about the same. I like the patience by Don Wendell. And drafting is such a key thing, and especially building a team like that in Carolina, where it's not a big market. You're gonna have to draft to get those players, like those superstars. And I think they did a fantastic job. Thank you for being on the show today. His links will be down in the description below. Make sure to go ahead, give him a subscribe and a like on all his videos. Thank you very much for being on the show, and we'll see you guys all later.
Take care.